332.
332, page 332.
ידיד נפש, אהבה חמה,
332. Third paragraph.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi
Oh
Tara.
my gosh, it's so much better in person. See your faces, your beautiful faces, to be in this sacred space. Who are you?
Yeah, good question.
So we've arrived at Vayechi. We're winding down the book of Bereshit, of Genesis. And we're thinking of endings and of beginnings tonight as we honor Daphna, our wonderful executive assistant to the clergy for 6 years now, who would have been here in person, but due to the need to be by her father-in-law's side, is there with family as she should be and watching. So you're with us, Daphna.
With us virtually.
And we're going to speak to you with them in person and with us virtually. So we'll be speaking to her and honoring her, thinking of those endings and beginnings. We're here as well with some of you who came for the art dedication of this beautiful piece created last Shavuot. Thank you for staying on with us, and be sure to check it out in the lobby. And thank you, David Wolf, for enabling that to happen. And we're thinking of endings and beginnings as well as we get ready to honor and celebrate a bar mitzvah tomorrow morning, Avery.
Yay, Avery.
Thinking of the waning days of childhood and the beginning days of young adolescence. And so you can come up with your family if you want. And as your family is coming up, we're going to turn it over to Mayor.
So before we light candles, I want to share a little thought about connected to the end of Sefer Bereshit, the book of Genesis. You know, Genesis is about family. It's about the first stages of peoplehood at the end of the parsha. I think you'll like this little idea. Give me a second. Or you know what? Why don't we light candles and then I'll share this.
Giving instructions.
Okay. All right. So yeah, as we will say together, Chazak, Chazak, V'nit Chazak, as we conclude the reading of Genesis. And but we know that Genesis, one of the themes of it is actually strife, family strife. There's a lot of divisiveness in our original founding family in Genesis, and the strife but the desire to overcome it is an eternal Jewish yearning. And I want to just tell you a little tiny story about that. Is this too close? I don't know. Avery, maybe we've talked about this story before. There's a young boy, younger than a bar mitzvah boy, like 10 years old, 8 to 10, who's thinking a lot about, like, where did we come from as human beings? I don't remember exactly what age my kids were, but we all know there's a stage when young kids come to be thinking seriously about that. So this boy comes to his mother, Mommy, where do we come from as human beings? And she says, well, the book of Genesis, it tells us very directly that we come from God, that Yipach be'apav, God breathed the breath of life. God gave us part of God's self. We come from God, honey. The boy says, okay, and then he goes and talks to his dad. He wants to find out what his dad thinks. Dad, where do we come from? And the dad says, well, you'll learn about evolution soon. Creation started with little microorganisms and bacteria and viruses and multi-cell organisms and eventually human beings. The boy's like, oh, okay. But then he goes to his mom and says, Mom, I'm a bit confused. You told me we're come from God. Dad tells me we come from bacteria and viruses. I don't understand. And the mom says, oh, you don't understand? Well, that's because Dad's side of the family comes just as he said, and my side of the family comes just as I said. But So, the desire to, harmonize our stories is an eternal desire and yearning. And I would say that the lights of the Shabbat candles are all wrapped up in us trying to go from the duality of the week on 2 candles to the conclusion of Shabbat with Havdalah on 1. So why don't we light the candles at this moment, Shabbat candles. Exactly.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Beautiful. Great job.
We begin our journey through the Psalms of Kabbalat Shabbat on page 12. This is really loud. Lechu nerhanena l'Adonai, nariya letzor yishenu, nekad mafanav betoda, bizmirot nariya lo. Page 13, Psalm 96. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai baruchu shemo, chasru miyom liyom yeshuato, sapru v'goyim kevodo, bechol ha'amim nimlotav, ki gadol Adonai, u'me'olam me'od, norahu, al kol Elohim, hay, ki kol Elohei ha'amim elilim, Adonai shamayim asa, od ve'halal lefanav, oz letiferet b'mikdasho, yalai, lalai, lai, ay, yalai, alai, lalai, lai, yalai, lalai, yalai, lai, 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 yai, lai, 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 yismechu hashamayim, yismechu hashamayim, yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz, yiram hayam, yiram hayam, yiram hayam, umlo, yiram hayam, yiram hayam, yiram hayam, umlo, yiram hayam, yiram hayam, yiram hayam, umlo, yiram hayam, yiram hayam, yiram hayam, umlo. Ya'alo sarei v'chol asher bo, az yiranenu kol hatzeyar, lifnei Adonai kiva lishbot haaretz, yishbot tevel v'tzedek, ve'yamim b'emunato. Adonai malach tayel haaretz, yismechu im rabim, anan barach v'sevivat zerek mishpat michon kiso. Ohave Adonai sina'ora, shomer nevashot chasidav, miyad reshayim yatzileim, or zaru al tzadik, u'yishrei lev simcha, simchot tzadikim b'Adonai, v'hodu לזכר קודשו.
top of 16.
זמרו לאדוני בכינו, בכינו, בקול זמרה. 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 בחצוץ וקול שופר, אגריל לפני אדוני, מלך אדוני, ירם הים ומלואו, תבל ויושביה, נחרות ימחוך, יחר הרים ירננו, לפני אדוני קיבה, לשפוט הארץ, ישפוט תבל בצדק, וימים במישרים. מזמור לדוד, אהבו לאדוני בני, אהבו לאדוני, כבוד כבוד, היי היי היי, אהבו לאדוני, כבוד שמו, תשתחוו לאדוני בהדרת קודש, כל אדוני על המים, אל הכבוד הרים. אדוני על מים רבים, כל אדוני בכוח, היי היי היי, כל אדוני בהדר, כל אדוני שובר ארזים, וישבר אדוני את ארזי הלבנון, וירקידם כמו עגל לבנון וסיריון כמו בין רמים. היי לי לי כל אדוני חוצב להבות אש, כל אדוני יאכיל מבר, יאכיל אדוני מבר קדש, כל אדוני יחלל איילות ויחשוף ובהיכולו כולו מרכבות. אדוני למבול ישב וישב, אדוני מלך לעולם, אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. לי 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 So, some of you were here last week for our Bluegrass Shabbat, and we're carrying some of those melodies over. But I thought we'd give a Long Island welcome back to Rabbi Tara and kind of Billy Joelify the melody. So take it away, Shai. Lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Nekabela, nekabela, shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, yishme'anu el ha'meyuchad, Adonai echad, u'shemo echad, l'shemo tiveret v'litila, lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, 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 likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, כי היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, nekabela, nekabela. Verse 5. Hitoreri, hitoreri, ki ba'orech komi ori, 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 shir daberi, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה, נקבלה, נקבלה. Just as we would look up over the Palisades to see the Sabbath bride coming, we rise and turn to greet her as she comes in. Boi v'shalom ateret ba'ala, gam besimcha u'v'tzola, toch emunei am segula, boi chala, lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, nekabela, nekabela.
I feel welcomed. That's good. 22.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות. עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בחינות. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. צדיק אתה מה יפרח, כארז בלבנון יזכה, שתולי בבית אדוני, בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו אור ינובון בשיבה, דשנים ורעננים יהיו להגיד, כי ישר אדוני צורי, ולא עוולתה בו.
Shalom Alechem 24.
Shal. Go ahead, Shai. Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Hasharet, Malachi Eyon, Mi Melech Malachi Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Sechem l'shalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Elyon. Mi Melech Malachi Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni l'shalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Elyon. Mi Melech Malachi Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seitechem l'shalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Elyon. Mi Melech Malachi Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
So tonight we'll speak in three different installments, tiny little sermonettes connected to this parsha and the themes of this evening. So as I mentioned, we're at Vayechi. We're ending the book of Genesis, bringing it to a close. There's so much in this parsha, a father blessing his sons at the end of his life, and also a grandfather, Jacob, blessing his grandsons, Ephraim and Manasseh. Thus, it is from this parsha that we get the bracha, the blessing that is traditionally bestowed upon Jewish sons after the candles are lit on Friday evenings. Yisimcha Elohim k'Ephraim v'chi Manasseh. May God make you like Ephraim and Manasseh. comes from this parsha. So here's the scene. Joseph ushers his boys towards their grandfather, who they haven't really met yet. And he doesn't see so well, like many grandfathers that we meet in Torah. And Joseph is trying to arrange it such that his dad's right hand will fall on Menashe's head, the firstborn, as is traditionally done. And Jacob's left hand will find its place squarely on the head of the younger son, Ephraim. But at the last minute, this old man switches it up. We read, Vayishlach Yisrael et Yemino, and he sends forth his right hand, Vayashet al Rosh Ephraim. Joseph notices this and tries to switch it back, but to no avail. This is precisely what Jacob has in mind. And so it happens that the younger son Ephraim, it is he who receives the powerful contact of his patriarch's right hand. It's a theme in our tradition, the unexpected, unlikely son rising up, right? It's a theme in Joseph's life, in Jacob's life for that matter. And we as a people like to switch up the story. We like to challenge fate. It's a good Jewish message. But there's deeper Torah here, as always, as it relates to names. I offer now a teaching passed forward to me this week by Yoel and Orly, who run Ulpan Or in Jerusalem, and they do wonderful little weekly drashot missives online. So here's a sweet piece of Torah. It's always important to give b'shem omro, the person, really say where you got the Torah from. So what they teach this week is that the name Menashe comes from the root nun shin he, which means like being forgotten. When he was born, Joseph states his intention to forget all that labor and imprisonment and all the suffering in Egypt. He's already been sort of raised up in his status. He wants to forget that. He names his son Menashe. Ephraim has at its root Feresh He, which has to do with being fruitful, abundant. So both of these sons are basically born into the same situation. They're born into Egypt after Joseph has become second in command to Pharaoh. But Menashe's name kind of summons memories of past suffering, and Ephraim's name makes us think of abundance and fruitfulness. So why do we bless our sons with these names as we begin Shabbat? Why do we say, Yisimcha Elohim, Ephraim b'chi Menashe? Well, one teaching is because they were the first boys to ever get along in Torah, something worth noting. I think another idea is maybe as we offer these words, we remember our own ability to change up fate, or maybe our kids, the way they often change it up for us in challenging and wonderful ways. But one last idea. We are leading into we're about to rise for Baruch Hu, and we're going to offer the prayer Ma'ariv Aravim, speaking about God's capacity to bring on the evening. So this Shabbat blessing for our sons is offered at the time when light and darkness touch each other. That's what Erev is, that mixture of light and darkness coming together. So we're thinking of the memory of darkness that Menashe's name brings and the hope for fruitfulness that Ephraim's name brings. I think every moment, like that in which the twilight of Shabbat comes in, and every person, like Ephraim and Menashe, contains light and darkness, memories of suffering, hope for abundance. Thus, every time we bless our kids, we acknowledge both aspects of life. But let's remember the last minute switch. What Jacob does in that moment is he says, I'm going to choose the hope. I'm going to put that first. And Joseph does it too at the end of this narrative when he says, yes, I know you threw me in a pit, and yes, I know things were bad, but you know what? Now we get to survive the famine. The choice for hope. Go get Dad. Let's be reunited. So may our gathering together this evening, this moment in which, well, it's pretty dark, but still, light and darkness intermingle on Kabbalat Shabbat. May it enable us to switch up the negativity, to challenge expectations of doom, to counter the darkness with light. May our collective presence and the beauty of these flickering candles and of tomorrow's simcha enable us to tap into, to feed and empower that spark for hope. Let us remember Jacob's hands. Let us choose it. Let us focus upon it. Let us name it. Let us bless it. We hold these intentions as we rise for the Baruch Hu, which is on page 28.
את אדוני המבורך, ברוך אדוני המבורך, ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Page 30, together. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time, and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness, and darkness from light, transforming day into night, and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzevaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening.
ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, המהרי והרבי, אהבת עולם בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו, בשוכבנו וקומנו, נשיח בחוקך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו לאורך ימינו, לאורך ימינו, ובהם נהגה יומם ולילה, יומם ולילה, ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, Adonai echad. Baruch Shem, Shem kevod malchuto, leolam va'ed.
Please be seated.
נא לשבת.
ואהבת
את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך ובביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Page 40, מי כמוך.
נדר בקודש נורא, תהילות עושה פלא נורא, תהילות עושה פלא, מלכותך ראו בניך, חוקי הים לפני משה ומרים זלי, אנו ויאמרו צאלי אנו ויאמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. ונאמר כי ודע אדוני את יעקב וגואלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
42.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום. Raise us up, Adonai. You'll spread your wings over us all. Give us peace and keep us safe לשלום, לשלום, לשלום. השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום. השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, לשלום, לשלום, לשלום. ועמידנו שומרנו לחיים, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ותקננו בצע טובה מלפניך, והושיענו למען שמך, והגן בידינו, הסר ממנו אויב דבב, חרב ורעב ויגון ורחק ממנו. כי אל חנון ורחום אתה, ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ושלום, מעתה ועד עולם, מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני, הבורא סוכת שלום, עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל, ועל ירושלים.
44, ושמרו.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל עוד היא לעולם, עוד היא לעולם, עוד היא לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. I figured since we're experiencing some tropical weather right about now in Great Neck, we should bring a little bit of that tropical feel.
So before we rise for the Amidah, just a little additional teaching that I want to offer that I started, remember the boy goes to his mom, where do we come from? Oh, you come from God, we're the image of God. God breathed the breath of life. And the dad says it's evolution, bacteria, virus. And the boy says to his mom, so who's right? And the mom says, oh, well, your dad's describing his side of the family, and I'm describing my side of the family. And why do I start with this? It actually connects to a really deep and beautiful piece of Torah that I've learned from Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson. And he understands deeply and wisely that the book of Genesis is very related to a teaching about disagreements. so many arguments and disagreements in the book of Genesis. And the statement, very famous statement that says that all of our disagreements should be l'shem shamayim, for the sake of heaven. And so the question is, how do you get to, what does it mean for our machlokot, our arguments, our disagreements, to be l'shem shamayim? You know, was that mom and dad? I don't know. We can decide. But I want to share a couple ideas from Rabbi YY that I think are really, really beautiful. Think about the second half of the book of Genesis. Like, who are the principal characters? Judah and Joseph are, you can make a very strong case. Judah and Joseph are the principal characters. So let's just think for a moment about those two individuals and their names. Judah, Yehuda, it comes from the word, or it is based on the word lehodot, which means to what? To thank. And also the word, what we do, the vidui, to admit, to acknowledge, to acquiesce, is connected to Judah's name. And Judah is the one who ultimately says to Tamar that you are more righteous than I, because Tamar made it clear that Judah was the one who fathered her child. And Judah was willing to lower himself, to really acknowledge and get to the lowest place. I mean, it's actually a very high place, but he was willing to make this courageous choice to be as low as a human being can be, which is to acknowledge a profound mistake. Yosef, on the other hand, the word lahosif, which means to add, to grow, to enhance, to build more and more and more. And so Rabbi Wiley teaches actually that Judah and Joseph represent water and fire. What do we know about fire? It rises like Yosef, to add, to grow, to expand, and what do we know about water? Water actually seeks the lowest place possible. And the tradition understands that that's Yehuda. Judah is willing to go so low. Of course, to emphasize so low is about as high as you can get also. But we know the feeling of acknowledging when we've really done something wrong. So what do we know about water and fire? They're like the most polar opposites. They remind us of our deepest arguments. And usually when it comes to water and fire, either one overcomes, destroys the other, eliminates the other. That's the way it works. You know, either the fire causes the water to evaporate, or the water drowns out the fire. That's the way it is. But Rabbi Wawa reminds us of this wonderful moment in the Talmud that says, you know, if you actually dream about a pot, then that means peace is around the corner. Like, what? What are you talking about, Talmud? And the answer is, well, actually the pot is one of the, maybe the only instrument that can enable what? Fire and water to coexist. In fact, the water and the fire are able to make the most of each other when there's a pot. It's a profound thing, right? The pot enables the fire to be its hottest and most transformative, enables us to cook food and purify water and all of what we need. And the water enables the fire to not be its most destructive. I mean, the pot enables the water to prevent the fire from being its most destructive self. So the pot actually enables these two opposites to coexist. So what does this have to do with a machloket, an argument in the name of heaven? That our role in our relationships is not to destroy the opposite opinion, not to see someone else's opinion as opposite to us, but how do we come to hear each other in such a way that these two very different perspectives, maybe these two very different senses of purpose and mission, can come together and be coexist, actually enhance one another. One very beautiful idea and one answer to the question, what's a machloket l'shem shamayim? That is an argument in the name of heaven, for the sake of heaven, when we're able to see the polar opposite idea as one that enhances me. It deepens me. It actually even can help me be my best and prevent me from causing the worst. A second idea that Rabbi YY offers, we just offered the Micha Mocha, where we cross through the Yam Suf, the Red Sea, every day, 3 times a day we say it. And there's a beautiful tradition that actually when the Israelites crossed the Red Sea, there were actually 12 paths for the Israelites. Why? Why 12? 12 tribes. Of course, each tribe needs its own path. I don't have to take your path because we don't actually see things similarly. But actually, the tradition also says that there was a 13th path in which all of us could go through. In fact, the 13th path figured out how to encompass all of them. This reminds us, according to Rabbi Waiwai, of the very beginning of Jacob's story, when Jacob goes out and has a dream. Vayifkav hamakom, right? He falls asleep at night, and it says he takes a bunch of stones, and then at the end of the story, his head was on one stone. So the rabbis teach us actually that there were 12 stones. Why 12 stones? Same answer. Because each of these stones was arguing, no, I want this important person, Jacob, to rest his head on me. No, on me. No, on me. So what happened to the 12 stones? They actually came together to form one stone. Because when there's one stone, when we know how to argue at a debate for the sake of heaven, we're able to actually recognize that all of our stones can form one whole. And that doesn't mean I have to give up on myself or you have to give up on yourself. All of our stones can come together and form a whole. It's just so beautiful, Rabbi Waiwai was offering. Last thought. The tradition has this quote, how do you know when it's L'Shem Shemayim? When an argument is L'Shem Shemayim, it will sofa lehit kayam. In the end, holy arguments, Holy arguments, they will endure. Whereas there are arguments that are not L'Shem Shemayim will not endure. But what does that mean? And ultimately, this is the answer of the Talmud, the Sfat Emet. Ahava b'sofa. What's ahava? In addition to being a woman's product line, ahava. Ahava is love. Besufa. At the end of a debate, of a disagreement, of an argument, there will be ahava. Now we know this truth in our own lives, that in the end, our prayer, our responsibility, our obligation, our holy opportunity is to be able to stand up from the table with the person with whom we're having a debate, a disagreement, and recognize how each of us is enriched, how each of us has an understanding of how the other person feels, thinks, that your perspective, your feeling doesn't overwhelm, it doesn't burn out my perspective, it doesn't drown it. It doesn't mean that my stone was thrown away. Our stones have come together. Ahava besufa. We all know this in our own lives. We know so many times when arguments end, debates end, and we're able to actually smile, hug, honor. I love you. I care about you. I respect you. I feel grateful that you're in my life. So, the book of Genesis ends. Rabbi Waiwai teaches, challenging us, inspiring us to debate, to disagree, to argue in these ways. And as we rise for the Amidah on page 46, why do we all rise together, all 12 tribes? We rise all together, 12 tribes, with the prayer and the aspiration that we're going to take a path, we're going to find and blaze one path together. One path, page 46, the Amidah.
Adonai sevatai tiftacho v'yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu ve'imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל, אלוהי לאה. האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. Page 50. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה הכל, אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. Page 52. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום, יהללוך סלה, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Take a moment for our own private personal prayer. We'll come together. Shalom Rav on page 60.
Please feel free to continue at your own pace the prayers of your heart, or you can join us on page 60 for the evening prayer for peace and wholeness. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. ברוך אתה אדוני המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום.
come now to our prayer for healing. As Mayor and I pass through the aisles, feel free to mention anyone's name in need of healing of any kind. It's on page 253.
Join me at the last two lines of the top paragraph of page 253. Refuat hanefesh, refuat haguf, ובזמן קריב ונאמר אמן. רפואת הנפש ורפואת הגוף, ובזמן קריב ונאמר אמן. אמן, אמן. ובזמן קריב ונאמר אמן. אמן, אמן. בזמן קריב ונאמר אמן. בזמן קריב ונאמר אמן. בזמן קריב ונאמר amen. May they all have a speedy recovery of refuat hanefesh and refuat haguf, and let us say amen.
Amen. Okay, we've come to the moment where we're going to offer a blessing to our beloved Daphna, who has been our partner for the last 6 years. She's with us virtually, as Tara said. Tonight, very sad that she and her husband Stephen and their son and the family are gathering with her father-in-law. But Daphna will have opportunities to celebrate this moment together, and we're grateful we can do this virtually as well. So I'll begin, and then Tara will follow. I obviously have...
And we're doing it now because it's not very often that you get to see both of us in person on the same bima. So that's why this is happening now and not postponing it.
Exactly. Between Daphna's departing and our rarely being in the same place at the same time, it seems better to take this opportunity rather than to pray really, really hard and try to figure out some other moment when we might all be here. So obviously I've spoken about machloket, l'shem shamayim, the disagreements, arguments for the sake of heaven. And one of the reasons I picked this argument is in addition to how centrally relevant it is to our lives, our homes, our souls, our nation, our world, but I do think, dear Daphna, that this subject relates so much to you and to who you are. It relates to what I have learned from you, Daphna, and very often it relates to what we, the two of us, have shared together in our own, I would say, holy work together. Yet tonight I've asked the question, what's an argument, l'shem shamayim? And I want to frame a similar question, same goal, but slightly different. How do we human beings create a place, a makom, that can be a conduit for God's presence. To say that an argument is for the sake of God, is to actually strive to be or create a space that can be a conduit for God's presence. And I think that question, that desire, that aspiration is so beautifully connected to you, Daphne. My experience of you is that in virtually every interaction you have, that's what you seek. In every sikha, every conversation, that's what you strive to create and to bring. And we've already begun receiving many messages from congregants. Very sad that you're leaving, but filled with gratitude, filled with appreciation. And I think all of these messages are proof that this is who you are. As I said earlier, the 12 stones quarreled to be the one. I want to be the stone upon which Yaakov, Tzaddik, the righteous Yaakov, places his head. But they eventually realized that joining together, that becoming one stone, didn't mean giving up who they were. It didn't mean making themselves smaller, but rather by joining together, they became greater, larger, more beautiful, more complete. I think that's you, Daphne. You have this beautiful ability and intuition about how to hear every single person, how to honor and raise up all of our feelings, our needs, our hopes. But you also are deeply devoted to the well-being of the whole, of our synagogue, of the Jewish community, and the Jewish people. I've heard you. Every conversation is an opportunity to create a place, a makom, a space that could be a conduit for God's presence. Daphne, we've shared 6 years together, and the letter Vav has the numeric value of 6. The letter Vav, which is also a word in Hebrew, it means and. The Vav means connection. The Vav means for the sake of heaven. And I'll wrap up with this idea I shared before, that an argument, a machloket l'shem shemayim, is one in which the ahava basufa. In the end of the disagreement, there's love. This stuff is a great bracha for you. May you know how much vavness you have brought. May you know that the connection, the vav you have made possible in so many moments and relationships, that's the meaning of Shem Shemayim. For you, dear Daphne, ahava basufa, spreading love is who you are. Generating love is what you do. Love for every individual with whom you interact. Love for Temple Beth-El and the Great Neck community. Love for the Jewish people. Love for Hashem, the God who has given life to every single one of us.
And Daphne, I spoke about the light and the darkness. As executive assistant to the clergy, you see it all. All these moments of joy and moments of loss and everything in between. I spoke about Ephraim and Manasseh, and it's beautiful to mention them because I know that your sons are your very soul, the soul of the beautiful family that you and Stephen have created. And how poignant it is at this moment of Parashat Vayechi that a patriarch of your family has his family gathered around for moments of blessing and love. You're exactly where you should be. Your priorities are right on point, as always. The whole saga of the Joseph narrative is one of transformation and change. And Daphne, you have seen so many changes since you've arrived in our community. Transformation after transformation, and you have rolled with them all. I spoke about light and that choice to emphasize the light and bring it out in that switching of the hands. Daphne, for 6 years, you have done everything in your power to bring out the light, to bring out the best in us. It's in the effort that you have put in, mostly when no one is watching. It's all the things behind the scenes that maybe you won't get credit for, but that made all the difference. Time and again, you have shown such loyalty, such humility, taking the blame and responsibility for things that you had nothing to do with, if it would make us or the team look good, if it would help us to shine, if it would bring out the light. Daphne, you have an innate kavod harav, a deep respect for what it means to be a clergy person. It's really a rare and beautiful thing. It's a teaching in and of itself. And you have put up with our quirks and our humanity with so much humor and love. I love coming into the office and hearing the Israeli radio, especially on Friday, playing those tunes. Hebrew is the language of your soul, and a profound Yiddishkeit permeates each and everything you have done in this community. You've come with an open mind. When you first arrived, you hadn't experienced much about what Reform Judaism is. And you embraced it and asked questions, and again brought that kavod. The light you bring comes with that sense of personal dignity with which you do everything, and in your fierce love and loyalty for Israel. You have raised up the light by your integrity and by your honesty and by the tender way in which you have reached out to the most vulnerable in our community, whether they are the very little ones or maybe some of the older ones or everything in between. Daphne, you have been our bouncer, our shlicha, our emissary, our right hand. And again, how fitting that you are with family tonight, because the light of your soul shines most brightly, not only in your professional world, but in who you are as a wife and a mother and a sister and a daughter-in-law and a friend. So, fresh off the plane from Jerusalem, we're going to give you in this package is a home blessing, a beautiful bracha for the home, because you have made Temple Beth-El just feel like a home. It's all those loving touches, and also a little tfilat haderech, because you kind of like the bling, and we're going to offer you it at the end. So, when we end a book of Torah, which we still have to get through Shabbat, we still have to have a bar mitzvah, but then we say chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek, be strong, and we shall be strengthened. We know we are going to continue to share those amazing gifts of soul, of light, of arguments for the sake of heaven, and that we will continue to feel the blessing of your presence here. Amen.
And we would, if you were here, obviously, we would have you right here and be going up to the bima with you. But that will happen some other time.
And we'd be
lastly,
giving you flowers.
All right, why don't we all rise as we offer Aleinu, page 282.
Bottom of page 282. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ויוצא וראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא
287.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
Please be seated. As always, before concluding, we remember loved ones. This week, we remember tragic death and passing of Liel Dina Namdar, a 15-year-old girl who was tragically killed in a car accident, young person from Great Neck who was killed by a drunk driver. We remember Robert Carlin, laid to rest in the last 30 days. And the Yortzeit, the anniversary of the passing of these following beloved family members of our community: Leslie Barshop, Abraham Brilloff, Stuart Cantor, Freda Crown, Abraham Limpert, Arlene Michelson and Arthur Michelson, Saul Getz, Natalio De Leon Ramos, Ryan Sims, and Harry Weinberg. If you are remembering someone whose name is not on the list, you'd like to rise, share their name, please feel free to do so. If it's your custom to rise with the mourners, please feel free. Kaddish at home is on 294. Yitgadal, Yitkadash Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'yalma divrach cherutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael. Bagalav izman kariv imru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. Yitadar v'yit'aleh v'yit'alal Shemei d'kudesha b'rechu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush bechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran b'yalma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Amen.
May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel. And let us say,
Amen.
You may be seated. A few announcements.
Amy,
What's going on?
where are you? At Barbara's? Oh, that's wonderful. You sound so good. I'm
Oh, it's
nervous.
At least they're saying good things. This is excellent.
Can I
So
call
for a study tomorrow in person down in the library or online. That will begin for schmoozing at 9 and Torah study, serious Torah study at 9:15. On Sunday, the Tzedakah Project, this wonderful opportunity to bring holiday meals to local families, starts at 9 a.m. here, and you'll have the opportunity to help package food and then to bring it if you're able. We're also still accepting donations. Other upcoming dates. Also, this is just in. Come join us as we celebrate Lee Seaman for her 60-plus years of service to the community. That is also this Sunday at noon on Bond Street and Grace Avenue, and a ceremony at Great Neck Plaza. Yes. Says the 19th in what I got. This Sunday. So an amazing 60 years plus of service to the community. She is unbelievable. And it looks like Mayor Ted Rosen and also Tom DiNapoli will be there, and Robert Zimmerman. Be a lovely event.
not Mayor Weinberg?
He's busy enough, but he may be there. Okay. All right, a few more things. There's so many announcements. Let's see if I can pick and choose a little bit. January 9th, Congressman Tom Suozzi will be speaking here at 10:30 a.m. Come for breakfast, and 11 a.m. it will begin. On Friday, January 15th, is our beloved MLK Shabbat. Cantor's working on that very hard. A book opening for my book on the evening of the 5th. Actually, these dates are wrong. The 14th is MLK Shabbat. The 15th is a Saturday night book signing. Okay, that's enough for now. We'll forget all the rest. So I think we will stop there. Okay, Kiddush and Motzi, come on up, Leibowitz family, because we are so excited to celebrate with you. Bring your sister too. Wait, wasn't she just about mitzvah yesterday? How did that happen?
Exactly.
Out of the hot seat. So, day before yesterday. Excellent.
We're on page 5. Page 5. Please rise. Please rise.
ויהי ערב ויבוק היום השישי, ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, ויחול אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה, ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו, אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות סברי.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה ושבת קודשו ביהבה ורצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית. כי הוא יום תחילה למקרא קודש, זכר לתחיית מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך ביהבה ורצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Amen.
Amen.
Take a drink. You're a man almost.
Go ahead and you can have a sip of that. Or take a symbolic sip.
He's mortified.
I'll do that. Okay. I can't say bracha and then not actually do the thing. Okay. Take that off.
We didn't know in the days of COVID whether we're supposed to be
Right.
drinking
Okay.
it.
Lift two of those up. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, המוציא לחם מן הארץ. Amen. All right.
And we're going to close it out with the Tfilat Haderach, a prayer for journeys, the journey to manhood, the journey, the
also
journey of the week.
And also the journey that Daphna is about to take. So we're so
Absolutely.
pleased.
You can sit if you want, whatever you like. This one's for you, Daphna.
This is on page 345 if you'd like to follow along. May we be blessed as we go on our way. May we be guided in peace. May we be blessed with health and joy. May this be our blessing. Amen. 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 May this be our blessing. Amen. 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 May this be our blessing. Amen. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom all.
doing really well. How are you? Okay, good. 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 What's on your mind?
Nothing. He just came to see his rabbi.
Second? I said everything is good with you? Yeah. Yeah. Staying over tonight? Yes. Okay, huh? Yep. In honor of the fact that Tara is here. Second? I said in honor of the fact that Tara is here. Absolutely. Absolutely. How are you guys doing? Well? No complaints. I had a sinus infection, but you know, everything becomes very relative. I mean, just sort of any kind of alert for service. Today, 28,000 people came down with COVID in New York. Oh, really? Wow. Biggest day since the beginning. Yeah, it's getting bad again, huh? But at least now, or will you have the vaccine? Yeah. If you have the booster, it seems like everything's fine. Yeah. Yeah. And everything's good with you? Yeah. Otherwise, everything's good. Yeah. You guys got the booster, right? Good shot. Excellent. Probably by next time you're this time it'll be 4 shots. Yeah. Absolutely. And then every year thereafter, probably. Well, like a flu shot. Very well. Great seeing you always.
Hey, Rabbi.